Don't you have something to say to me?
Dog Mom. Today I am joined with Dog Mom, none other than Mr. Dog Mom himself, Nick Scarpinato.
Thank you. And I'm joined by Associate of Dog Mom, David Kapushikars.
Yes, indeed.
And we're recording this the week of Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to all moms out there. Thank you to my mom for giving birth to me. I have been a great kid, a perfect kid, honestly, and I don't think you could have ended up with a better one. So you're welcome, and I love you so much.
Yes, to all the kids out there, be sure to run out and buy your mom a 1961 Jaguar E-Type.
Yes. Wow, look at you with the segue. That's it's a beautiful. It's honestly, I think it's the one that Doc was in the Cars franchises. It's very spy-like. It's very, I don't know how else you would call it, but it's very slim. It's very sleek. It's very sneaky. So if I needed to get away with murder or try to sneak up on someone to catch them for a murder, I'd drive that car.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, they didn't make hybrids in the 60s. Otherwise, it would have been a lot easier, but that thing's probably super loud. It's a Jaguar. You know how people say that cars will purr?
Yeah, drive some Jag. Play some Jag, drive some Jag.
Yeah. Any Atari Jaguar fans out there? Probably not. We're off to a great start. But welcome to episode 4 of the Too Bad We Didn't Get to Cars podcast. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today, but particularly all of the Marvel stuff that wrapped up and aired in the last week. I'm talking Moon Knight, and we're talking Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. A lot of M's. It's Mother's Day, Multiverse of Madness, Moon Knight. It's a Mother's Day Marvel extravaganza. So I'm really excited to get into that. That's probably going to be a majority of the episode, honestly. But we also wanted to make sure we got some music and video game stuff in. So we're going to be talking about just a couple of concert updates, things that we have coming up, and talk about venues, kind of piggybacking off of last week's concert experiences talk. And then we want to briefly talk about, since we haven't really been playing a whole lot of games in the last week, aside from mobile games, we'll just tell you about the mobile games that we've been playing, because all of their anniversaries happen to be around the same time. So it's going to be a busy time for those games in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, but really quickly, I want to talk about the fact that we're about to have 90-degree weather. We're about to have 90-degree weather, and this is the exact thing that last week I was so nervous about. I hate summer, man. I hate it.
Yeah, what a way to end my last week at Discount Tire.
Yeah, David's leaving Discount Tire. How long were you working there?
Since September.
Which is nuts. Absolutely nuts. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, for way too long, but the deed's got to be done. I have to revisit old territory again. But that just means I can finally put cars behind me.
Yeah, officially. Because we kind of started this podcast under the pretense that we didn't know anything about cars. So when I found out that you were working at Discount, I gotta say, I didn't know who you were anymore. And but now we're going back to square one. And speaking of jobs, I just got a job at a bakery, which you probably look at me and you're like, yeah, his jolly ass absolutely sells cupcakes. That's absolutely what he would do. It is a surprise for me though. I'm very excited to start a new job, but I'm also very, very nervous because I've never worked at a bakery before. I don't work with baked goods super often. But that's just me. So I will be sure to visit you when you're doing cable work, and you gotta.
I wouldn't rate your chances quite so highly.
Oh my god! And you gotta visit me and buy a cupcake or something because it's in Aurora. So
tell your boss to get Dish. I'll be out there.
If you're watching, I shouldn't use their name.
I might be going to Texas for a week.
That's right. Yeah, I feel like this isn't the first time that I've heard about Texas being a training ground for a bunch of different jobs, like people just going to Texas or Austin or whatever for do you know what part of Texas you're going to train?
I have no idea. It's also I have no idea if I'm even going, but it's a possibility.
It's a possibility. So if you don't see David for a week, or if you see him and he came back and he has a bunch of like scorpion stings, you'll know that it was because he was in Texas. Oh my God. You have to wear a cowboy hat. You have to wear a cowboy hat the first episode we do after you come back from Texas. Absolutely.
If I go to Texas, I will buy a hat. I will buy a cowboy hat.
Yeehaw, brother. Yeehaw.
Yeehaw.
That was a good yeehaw. So, yeah. So, I mean, we both are starting new jobs. I mean, for David, your job at Dish is kind of like a revisit. It's like a remaster, you know?
Yeah. I was there for like 2 months, and then things happened. But now I'm going back.
Yeah. So it's an exciting time for us, and you get to watch it all unfold or listen to it all unfold.
I don't know about exciting, but
new. It is new.
I don't know about new either.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, it is. It changes the way that we have been living the past like month since we started this podcast.
I'll
so
give
at the very least, it's doing that. So we'll be sure to let you know any sort of updates. I don't know, like if I heard a story of, I think I might have told you, but I was working with, oh God, who was I talking to? You ever start a story that you think is going to be really cool and then you literally forget how it starts? No, it was.
Yeah, actually, there was this one time.
Don't do it. Come on, man.
How'd it go again?
Don't do it.
How'd it go?
No, so I think it was actually like internet or like TV or whatever. But I was working with someone recently on like a musical project, and I and I was talking to them about their job, and they like installed like cable, or they worked on like, you know, TV, basically what you would be doing at Dish. And person walks into the house, and they're working in Virginia at the time. And so the guy walks into the house, and he's talking to the customer a little bit, and she's like, "Okay, yeah, I mean, you just take your time, do your thing. I'll be here." And he was like, "Oh, okay." So he's walking through the house, and he starts to see all these pictures of this customer, like with Dave Grohl, and he's like, "Wow, this woman's got a lot of pictures with Dave Grohl. She must be a big fan." And so he tells her about it. He's like, "Hey, you got a lot of pictures with Dave Grohl. I love the Foo Fighters." Like, he was a big Foo Fighters fan. And she's like, "Oh yeah, Dave's my son." And so this guy ended up working at the house of Dave Grohl's mom, Virginia. I think that's his mom's name. In like the town where he grew up, which is insane. So maybe David will have a story or two about that kind of experience.
I already do.
What?
To any White Sox fans out there, I did the cable for, what's his name?
Konerko?
No. What was it? Tim Anderson.
Tim Anderson.
Tim Anderson is currently on the White Sox. Yeah, I did his cable. I don't even know who he is because I don't watch baseball.
Yeah, we didn't get into sports either.
Yeah, true.
Did you so like were you talking directly to him? Were you?
Yeah, no, I rolled up. Pretty nice looking house, as you'd imagine. And there's this guy working on the lawn, and I thought that was the guy. So I asked him, like, "Hey, man, can I park on your driveway over here?" Mm-hmm. He's like, "Oh, I don't live here. He's in the car." Because he was in the car, I guess, waiting to go to a game that day.
Yeah.
And I walk up to him, and I was like, "Hey, man, is it cool if I park over here?" He's like, "Yeah, man, that's fine. You go talk to my wife inside. She'll, like, tell you all the things." I was like, "All right, cool." And I start doing the job, and then, like, in their bedroom, I noticed the guy, Tim, and his wife, and he was in the uniform in, like, Soldier Field. I was like, wait a minute. So I looked up my phone. I was like, White Sox players. And I found him. I was like, holy shit. I am in a famous man's home.
Wouldn't it be something if he was just like a really big White Sox fan and he bought like an authentic jersey and like escaped onto the field with his wife to take that picture?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, very shortly after the authorities apprehended me and and I was in big trouble, but it was good for the football.
Yeah, I even told one of the managers that was there at the time, and he's like, there's no way you're in his house. That's my son's favorite player.
Oh,
and I sent him
no.
a screenshot of like the work order, and he was like, "Damn,
yeah,
I was there."
Yeah, man, that could have been. Isn't it funny how you think like in another universe, like that could have been like your boss in that situation, and he could have been like, "Yeah, my son is a big fan. I want to get your autograph," but it wasn't. So sorry, David's boss. Sucks to suck. Sorry, that was rude. I don't even know you. Yeah, speaking of other universes.
Yeah, okay, we got to get to it.
Okay, so I think we should start small. I think we should start with Moon Knight.
I agree.
Because there's a lot, we've kind of been holding on to, same thing we did with Jujutsu and like Sonic, where we didn't really talk about our feelings about the movies when we watched them and we waited for the podcast. We've been doing the same with Moon Knight and Doctor Strange. So because we've been holding on to Moon Knight a little bit longer, I think we should do that first, just so I can get it off my chest and bear my feelings to you.
Yeah.
So in our last video where we talked about Moon Knight, we kind of discussed how exciting it was that it was a new Marvel property and Oscar Isaac was carrying the whole thing and he was doing such a good job, and that there was a twist at the end of episode 4 where we left off. And speaking of, spoilers ahead for those who haven't seen Moon Knight but are watching this anyway or listening
also
to this
Doctor
anyway.
Strange later on.
And Doctor Strange later on, yeah. So the twist being obviously Mark wakes up in a mental hospital and Harrow, the villain, is his psychiatrist or whatever position he was in. They go through this whole thing where in episode 5, there's a lot of trauma that Mark relives and Steven gets to see. And it's kind of like a bottled like backstory episode, and it's done really, really well. And then we get to the finale in episode 6, where he comes back to reality, and there's a big fight between a couple of different people. I think before we get into details, let's just talk about our general thoughts. Like, did you think Moon Knight was a good show? Now that we've had time to like think about it.
No.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Explain.
The show went so hard downhill after episode 1. Because episode 1, I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. And then episode 6, I was like, wow, that kind of sucked. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are cool moments.
Yeah.
Especially in episode 5. But I guess the finale was such horse shit.
Why's that? What do you think?
I hated the finale hardcore. For one thing, episode 5 ends, and there's a lot of things they had to answer for.
Yeah, we talked about that when we finished watching the episode. It was just the fact that we knew there was only one episode left. And yeah, they had to take down Harrow. Harrow still had to release Amit. Like Mark had to come back to life. Like he was shot and dead, and he ended up in a field, kind of like in Wakandan culture. Like there's the ancestral plane. In the Marvel universe, in like Egyptian culture, you end up in the field of reeds, I think. And so Mark was there at the end of episode 5, and so we were both thinking like, well, they have so many things that they have to tie up, and they have one more like 40-minute episode left.
And yeah, it turns out they're just gonna hit the fast forward button and try to speed rush the entire thing.
Yeah, like there was a whole so. When we get into episode 6, Mark wakes up because he in the afterworld, he goes back to rescue Steven, who had died at the episode, died, quote unquote, at the end of episode 5. He sacrifices himself, and then that act balances out the scales in his heart. So then, the gates to the real world open up, and they're able to escape back to the real world. And Harrow goes into the tomb with all of the other avatars that we saw in episode like 3, something like that. All of the other avatars, like Anubis's avatar and Osiris's avatar and Isis's avatar, they all get their asses handed to them by Harrow, by one dude. And it's like, aren't Osiris and Anubis supposed to be like some of the strongest Egyptian gods like ever? They're the ones that you hear about like as a kid. You're like Egyptian, you hear like Anubis and Cleopatra and King Tut, and they just get their asses handed to them, and we don't even see the fight. And so like then Layla shows up, and she has to break Khonshu out of his little statue. But yeah, like David said, it all kind of rushes together because they have to finish everything really, really quickly. I didn't think, like, as a whole the show was that. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was like amazing. But I really liked the fight choreography in the last episode. Like when Moon Knight, comes back and he's like fighting off all these dudes. He's switching between like him and Mr. Knight because Mark and Steven are on like even playing fields now. So like there's a moment where Harrow grabs Moon Knight's cape, and then Moon Knight changes to Mr. Knight and loses the cape. So like he's free, and then he punches the dude, and then turns back into Moon Knight. So like I thought the combat was cool. We got a kaiju battle because Amit gets released and she starts sucking up souls, and she turns into a giant, Godzilla-sized monster. So Khonshu comes out and he's a Godzilla-sized monster. So there's a specific shot where like Moon Knight and Layla, who ends up getting powers because she becomes Teroet's avatar. Again, a lot of stuff, and they breeze through it, but there are cool moments. So I don't know. They end up defeating Harrow, and Amit gets sealed inside him, and then Khonshu at the very end of the episode. There are a couple of really important things that happen, because first, like in the middle of Mark and Layla beating all these dudes up and getting to Harrow, Mark blacks out again, and it skips ahead to Mark has like Arthur in his arm, like in his hand, and he's like, "Fuck, man, dude's about to die."
Yeah, that villain they've been building up for 6 episodes? Yeah, he gets defeated off screen.
He gets defeated off screen. Like Amit gets defeated, and then they seal Amit inside Arthur Harrow's dying body. And then the end of the episode, they skip back to like Mark and Steven waking up in their apartment, and it's almost as if nothing it's almost as if it was all a dream, And then the credits roll, and then there's a post-credit scene where we open up on, I think it's like a rehab center, because it's like a hospital, but also like I think Harrow might be, I don't know if he ever got arrested or whatever, but he is in like a similar position that like Mark and Steven were when they were in their psych ward, and someone rolls them out on a wheelchair, and then you find out that it's Mark, like it looks like Mark, and Harrow gets thrown into the back of like a limo, and you hear Khonshu, and he's like dressed up in this nice suit, and Harrow is like, "You're not going to be able to get away with this. What are you going to do? You don't have an avatar." And then you see the driver, and he turns around, and then Khonshu is like, "Oh, but I do have an avatar. I don't need Steven. I don't need Mark. I want you to meet my friend Jake Lockley," who this whole time people on the internet have been like, Moon Knight canonically has like 3 major personalities. Like, where is Jake? Turns out Jake is like the homicidal, like violent one who has been like emerging in the past episodes where, Moon Knight kicks the shit out of people, and then Mark wakes up and he's like, "Steven, did you do that?" Steven was like, "No, I didn't do that." So we just meet Jake, and he pulls out a gun, and he says something in Spanish, which is really cool. I don't know why that's really cool. It's a fun moment for his character because, like, Oscar Isaac manages to make each of these personalities, like, gives them unique qualities to make them stand out from one another. So he says something in Spanish. He shoots Harrow with a silencer, I'm assuming that he kills him, because one of the conflicts at the end of the episode was like Khonshu was like, "Hey man, you got to kill this guy, otherwise Amit's going to be released again." And Mark's like, "Doesn't that make me no better than Arthur? I'm just going to leave him. We're just going to seal him. You do it." And then by the end of the episode, Khonshu was like, "I don't need Mark to do it. I got Jake to do it." So now Moon Knight is still around because technically Jake is still Khonshu's avatar. So like Moon Knight's going to come back, but I think it's going to be very interesting to see where they pick up from here. So for me, after all that being said, I do think I don't honestly think it's one of the weaker Disney Plus shows, but I was thinking about this the other day, like how many of those shows would I go back and rewatch? Like how many would I voluntarily go back and rewatch from start to finish? I don't know if I'd go back and watch Moon Knight, even though he's like a new character and it might be cool to like go back to the first couple episodes and pick up on little like Easter eggs and stuff. I thought it was fun, but honestly, I'm more excited to see him pop up in the future, possibly with Blade or possibly with better CG, because the CG throughout this whole show is kind of wonky. Not to discredit the animators or anything. I'm sure a lot of the work was done like in quarantine or like when we were figuring out quarantine. So like there's a chance that maybe the quality wasn't as high because the resources were limited. Any amount of things. But I don't know, man. So if I personally had to like, we don't have to do the ranking yet if you have more that you want to say.
I have a lot more I want to say.
Okay. So I will hold off on the ranking. What else? What else you got?
Just like first of all, Amit looks stupid. It's this giant goddess they've been building up for the whole episode, and it's just a giant alligator.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Egyptian gods are just like animal.
Well, Khonshu looked cool. It was like a vulture skull.
Well, because he was. I don't know if they ever explained it, but I think like Khonshu is supposed to be like an alive bird, but like the skin on his head had just like like rotted away.
Well, whatever it was, he looked cool.
He did look cool.
And then Amit, just a giant battle,
just a CG battle.
Yeah, man, I don't know. And then Harrow easily like officially like my bottom 5 villains.
That's fair.
He didn't do anything. Even the finale, he was just kind of like twirling his stupid cane around. And of course he gets defeated off screen. So that was a wet towel.
Yeah.
And just and then they kill him at the end. It's like, okay, well, that was a waste. And then oh my god. I still don't know what the hell's up with the psychiatric ward thing.
No idea. Because by the end of the show, you're still left wondering, like, did any of it actually happen?
Yeah, and then episode 5 ends with Steven getting trapped in the thing. Yeah, it's like, oh, that's sad. And then of course they bring him back for the finale because of course you have to.
Yeah, no one's just like in anime. Like most shonen anime, no one's actually dead. But if they are actually dead, they have a whole big thing for them, like throwing a funeral for Tony Stark. Or, having a hospital scene for Sir Night-Eye. It's the same thing. Like in Marvel shows, no one's actually dead until they get a whole 10-minute scene about them.
Yeah, it's just super frustrating because you were on the verge of greatness.
Yeah, I really do think if this show had stuck the landing a little better, or if it had been like a couple of episodes longer, maybe it could have been. It was
marketed as like a more mature show, but by the end of it, it's the same thing.
Yeah, and that's a huge complaint about Marvel in general, is that like the third acts of Marvel movies typically feel very similar, or like third acts of like the shows too. Like Hawkeye had a very similar third act in its show, where they're fighting off like a horde of enemies, so you can show off the hero's powers. And what did you feel about the Layla? Like, she becomes the Scarlet Scarab, which I think her dad is in the comics. But in this iteration, she takes up the mantle. What did you think about her basically, like, having Falcon powers?
Fine, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was cool that she finally accepted a role as an Avatar, even if it was, like, temporary. But yeah, I thought her, like I said, I will stand by the fact that I think the choreography in the fights in the last episode are still good. Like that's where all of the fight choreography, like production budget really went.
It's like what even happened with like the very last scene? It's like they wake up from the thing.
Yeah.
He gets up, trips, and then it cuts to black. Like what a horrible ending. I'm sorry.
Yeah. because it doesn't really. Like I said, I think if the point of the show is to kind of throw you off guard and keep you on your toes, it's like, for me, the way I saw it, like, was any of it real? Did any of it actually happen? Was it supposed to be this like sitcom ending where we end up in the same spot where we started, but like we're different for it, for everything that happened? I don't know. I think Moon Knight and Oscar Isaac particularly. Oscar Isaac carries this show. Like, his performance, especially in episode 5, oh my gosh. Like, his whole backstory and how Steven was created. Like, if I go back and watch any of this show, I'm watching that episode. Because I think that episode is like, when in interviews, Oscar Isaac was like, yeah, this show is my baby. I'm like, that's it. Like, that episode fully encapsulates how much work, like, Oscar Isaac put into this role. So, like, I love that episode. Made me tear up a bunch. But yeah, then you could tell that, like, by the 6th episode, executives or maybe, the Marvel higher ups were like, okay, we got to wrap this up. We kind of know how we want this to end. So you can experiment in the middle couple of episodes, but we know how we got to end this thing.
It's like, I don't get why. Why does it need to only be 6 episodes? Like, could you not go 7? Could they not have gone 7? And properly gave everything enough time.
Yeah.
And for God's sake, the finale is the shortest episode of the series.
It is. Yeah.
It honestly blows my mind. I don't know just what their game plan was, but they fucking... Oops, sorry. This is not the...
That's
I
fine.
try not to, but sometimes it happens. But I'm sorry, they dropped the ball.
Yeah, like, I think we agree in that regard. Like, if they had just stuck the landing a little better and made the whole journey up till that point more worth it, I think this show would be a lot higher on my list of Disney Plus shows.
Didn't WandaVision have like 10 episodes?
Yeah, WandaVision had a bunch of episodes. Yeah.
Nope, gotta get this wrapped up in 6.
Yeah, so like I said, episode 5 is probably one of my single favorite episodes of like Marvel TV of Moon Knight. And like the show up until that point is, has its ups and downs where it's kind of slow for a little bit. The twist in episode 4 is super interesting. But I don't really think it connects everything at the end in a very cohesive way. So, I don't know, man. Like,
as far as shows I'd rewatch, you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think the only ones are Loki and What If for me.
Yeah. I would go back and watch WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But if
maybe WandaVision.
Yeah. Like if I had to rank all of the Disney Plus shows, I'd probably put this like middle tier or like lower middle tier. Cuz I think I might enjoy it more than Hawkeye, if not like the same amount. I don't know if y'all heard that, but I definitely just spilled my water all over the
all right.
over the floor.
Spill the water.
Yeah. So, David, you talk to the people while I grab some paper towel.
Yeah, I'd you're blocking my shot, man. I would I'd at least put Moon Knight, I think, above Falcon, because Falcon I did not like at all. But yeah, other than that, I think I preferred everything else over Moon Knight.
Ridiculous that you didn't like Falcon at all.
I just, there was just nothing I cared about. I don't even remember who the villains were, and I'm not gonna. Well, no, I'll remember Harrow because how disappointing he was. But I don't even know what Falcon was about anymore. And then we have Miss Marvel coming out soon, which, God, I don't know if I care about.
Yeah,
I especially don't care about the Agatha spinoff.
Yeah, meaning I was not one of those people that was like watching WandaVision. I was not like, oh man, absolutely, I need this is something that I 100% need.
That's one that I'm skipping that one. I'm not watching Agatha, House of Darkness.
Yeah, if it ends up, actually having some sort of like significance to the overall MCU, then maybe. But
that's why I don't watch Peacemaker either. I don't care if it's good. I don't care. I'm sick of these shows already.
That's fair.
It's getting a bit much.
That is...
I'm hitting my threshold.
Yeah. So Disney Plus shows, I'm hoping Ms. Marvel is a refreshing sort of like 8th grade situation where, you know, maybe it's like a coming of age story instead of, you know, like the superheroing that we've gotten recently. But I think it's about time to move on. I would personally give Moon Knight a rent it if that was an option. But I feel like you're probably more on the don't watch it side.
Yeah, it's hard. Because, episode 1 and 5 I think are good.
Yeah. Everything
else, no.
Yeah, so rent it if only to watch the 1st and 5th episodes.
Well, look up a synopsis after you watch 1 and 5 and then just read about the rest of it. Save yourself like 2 hours of boredom.
Yeah. So next we're going to move on to what I think is on the other end of that sort of spectrum. If not, you know, I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Didn't like this one either. I'm joking. I thought this movie was awesome.
Hell yeah. Okay, you go first because I'm going to work some things on my camera.
This was Sam Raimi coming back. Definitely was a big plus. But I think the first part of the movie actually was kind of average. Like, nothing was really special, I think, until America, what a name. America sends her and Strange through the first portal they go through. I think that's when it really starts to kick in.
Yeah, I honestly would say the first moment of the movie that really made me think like, okay, I'm excited is the first action scene like on the street. Like there's a comparison that I saw that's because obviously it's exciting that Sam Raimi is back. Like that is directing a superhero movie in New York, you know, like with Spider-Man, very similar sort of situation. I'm super stoked because what that meant was we got a lot of action-centric scenes in a big city, which I sort of assumed going into this movie that we wouldn't get a whole lot since we're jumping dimensions. But the single sequence that really did it for me was when Strange walked out of Christine's wedding onto the balcony and he takes the big sip of the rest of his drink, he puts it on the platter, and then he takes his tie and he like flips around like off of the building and like his cape goes on. I don't know, man. It just felt like a really cool suit up scene. And then like his theme starts playing and he does the buzzsaw thing. And then, oh my God, when the octopus monster gets its eye ripped out, holy shit. That's when I knew that this movie was going to be a little bit gorier than other MCU movies that we've seen. Yeah, dude. Skipping ahead a little bit. First of all, I want to start by saying Wanda might be one of, if not my favorite MCU villain ever. I think it helps that she was like a hero to start and we got a lot of movies with her. So like seeing this culminate.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
And Wanda definitely
Harvey
did.
Dent.
Harvey Dent. I'm going to turn this.
I believe in Harvey Dent.
I believe in Harvey Dent. Do you believe in God?
Yes. I believe in God.
I believe in God.
Do you?
Yeah, man. Wanda speaking to the horror elements of this movie and the gory elements of this movie, she straight up kills people. Like she murders people.
People die
like
in this movie.
And like the elephant in the room, we got to talk about the Illuminati because for me that is easily one of the best sequences of the entire movie, like if not the entire MCU, because they pull this move where Doctor Strange and America get sent to a universe where the Illuminati exists, and we walk into the room and you see a couple of, you see like Baron Mordo at like taking Doctor Strange's place. You see Black Bolt from the Inhumans show, like played by the same guy that played Black Bolt in that ABC show. who else? Oh, Peggy Carter, like Captain Carter from the What If show. She's there, and she looks great. And then Monica Rambeau took up the mantle of Captain Marvel. So instead of Brie Larson, it's Rambeau. And then the last two people, we skip over to see John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards. When I tell you I audibly gasped in the theater when that happened, I was surprised that nobody else had that reaction. Like he came up on screen and you hear his voice and you see him in the costume and with the beard, and I was like, and I put my hand over my mouth because it was so unexpected, because we had been theorizing and campaigning for Reed Richards to be played by John Krasinski for years, and Marvel gave it to us. And then we see Charles Xavier in the yellow, like, X-Men the Animated Series wheelchair, and they play a little, like, musical motif, that and then what do? Wanda kills every single one of them. Wanda brutally murders every single member of the Illuminati so that we'll never see them again. God, but she removes Black Bolt's mouth like it's the Matrix, and then he says something and his head explodes from the inside. She tears Reed Richards apart like spaghetti. One of the smartest men in the universe. My ass, man. You're going to throw a punch at Wanda Maximoff and not expect to be torn apart like noodles? Yeah, and then she cuts Captain Carter in half with her own shield, and then she crushes Captain Marvel under a big-ass statue. Oh, and then she snaps Dr. Xavier, like Professor Xavier's neck in his own brain.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Crazy movie.
Is straight up... She is a horror villain through and through. Like, there are sequences where there are jumps. Like, there's a sequence where she, like, pops out of a mirror, like The Ring style, and she's, like, contorting her body, and you hear it crack and stuff, and her head, like, picks up for, like, oh, my God, man. Yeah, there are some legit jump scares in this movie.
I also forgot what part it was, but it was another Wanda scary scene. Yeah. And it was, like, going through a house, and there's, like, a picture of her. Yeah. And she, like, turns.
Oh my God, dude. And then there's a scene where they're actively running away from her, and she straight up looks like Jack Nicholson out of The Shining. It's like she's got the limp and she's like running after America and Christine and Strange. And then they block her behind this like blast door, and then it's just silence. And then you hear like water dropping from above them and hitting the floor. And then right before the scare, right before the reveal, the water like goes into slow motion, and then you hear it like slow down. And then all of a sudden, like Wanda pops out of like the corner, and she's like, all you see are her like her red eyes and like her shadowy figure.
Yeah, what a surprise that was. Because the trailer made it seem like the other Strange, I think, was like the main villain.
Yeah, I am so... Apparently in other trailers, though, they gave a lot away. Like, in regards to Wanda being a villain.
That's why you stay away from all the trailers.
Yes, I purposely stayed away from the trailers just so... Like, I knew that, like, Professor X was going to be in this movie. I kind of assumed that it was because of the Illuminati, but I did not know that Wanda was just going to be the villain for the whole time. I thought they were going to reveal, like, Dormammu or someone, or, like, someone from the demon world.
It looks like that's where he's going next. The after credit scene looks like.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't even know that was Bruce Campbell until one of my friends, Josh.
What?
He was like, "Is that the guy?" I was like, "Oh shit, that's Bruce Campbell."
Yeah.
I didn't even recognize him at first.
Yeah, I honestly I have not seen him in a really long time. I have not seen Bruce Campbell, admittedly, in quite a long time. But like, it's a Raimi movie, so of course you got to have a Bruce Campbell cameo, and it's a really funny one where like Strange. He calls himself the Pizza Papa because he sells these like balls of pizza like in another universe. But let's talk about that post-credit scene, the first one, because whatever road is next for Doctor Strange, he had to use the Darkhold to dreamwalk into like a dead body version of him, which was really cool. Like Zombie Strange was a really cool concept, and like, but because of that, he ends up developing what I'm gonna assume are like dark powers, like dark magic, because he tapped into it once, so it's like starting to corrode his soul, his brain, whatever. He grows a third eye, much like the evil Strange in this movie. And some character is like on the street. She's like, Stephen Strange. And he's like, who are you? And she's like, doesn't matter. You caused an incursion. We're going to go fix it. And then like you hear like the electric guitar play like anytime that someone uses the Darkhold. And like his eye opens up and she's like, are you afraid? And he's like, I'm never afraid. And then they run into the portal. And I found out they're going to the dark dimension where Strange met Dormammu for the first time. So then I looked up who that character was supposed to be because I had no idea. I honestly thought she was like, she had clothes that were very similar to like the Eternals. So I was like, is this an Eternals character that I missed? But no, her name is Clea. She is the princess of the dark dimension. She's also Dormammu's daughter. And she ends up taking over the role of Sorcerer Supreme from Doctor Strange in the comics. So I don't know what they're going to do with that character. She's played by Charlize Theron, or Charlize Theron. I'm sorry. She's not watching this. But if you are, be sure to correct me in the comments. Sound off in the comments section below. But yeah, it's basically, the way I looked at it, it was the perfect way to give Doctor Strange like the Captain Marvel treatment where he's just like off world for a while. Like he has to figure stuff out in the, dark dimension. So he will return because the end of the credits say that he's going to come back. But Benedict Cumberbatch has already come out and said like, yeah, I'm going to take a break from acting after Doctor Strange 2. So if we see him again as Doctor Strange, it probably won't be for a while, maybe a couple of years. But what else you got?
God, I don't even know. All the like the demon things that he like possesses with the corpse Strange.
Yeah.
That shit was like straight out of like Army of Darkness.
Honestly, yeah, like their voices were like edited, so like it was one voice that was like Nyah! And then it was another voice on top that was like Nyah! So like both of them together.
It just reminds me of like the skeletons.
Yeah. Yeah. There were a couple of other Raimi-isms that I like. Here's the thing. This is it's a Sam Raimi movie, like whether you like it or not. Like if you are a fan of his style, you're gonna like this movie a lot. If you're not a fan of his style, like if you think it's too cheesy, then it might be a little turnoff for you. There were definitely some cheesy moments in the movie. Like there were some one-liners that like were spoken that I don't think like landed a whole lot. But there was
someone was like, I'm gonna send you back to hell.
Yeah, it was Christine was like, she took a big, basically like flamethrower, and she like held a candle in front of it. She was like, I'm sending you back to hell, and then poof, and then the spirits go away or whatever.
Oh yeah, remember when Scarlet Witch like burned someone alive, and it showed like the charred corpse?
Yeah,
that was wicked.
That was wicked, dude. Yeah, what a kill count. And she ends up dying. At the end, she ends up crushing herself under the big pillar that she was doing all of her magic from. But there was, in that last sequence where Corpse Strange was fighting Wanda, he's telling America Chavez, who, by the way, is a really interesting new character. I feel like she's going to play a really big role moving forward, and this movie was a good introduction to her. Yeah, I like her actor a lot. But the whole movie is like, I don't know how to control this power. I don't know how we're going to do anything. And then Strange at the very end comes to the realization that he doesn't need to steal her power like his previous, the Strange from the beginning tried to do. He's like, no. You know how to use your power. You've been doing it this whole time. You just got to believe in yourself. And then, there's like a little like zoom in, like camera twists on her, and she like smiles. And then it like does the same zoom in camera twist on Strange, and it's just him winking, but he's a zombie. So like it looks really silly because he's got like half his face missing, like a Two-Face, and he's like, he does that thing. But it's like it's the kind of silly, weird Sam Raimi things that I really, really like about Evil Dead and like Army of Darkness that like are full force in this movie.
Dude, how about that music battle between Evil Strange?
The music battle was really cool. I mean, it was a cool concept. I just wish it wasn't the whole battle. I wish it could have been like just a part of it.
Yeah.
Because like there's a cheesy moment at the end of the battle where like Strange is like struggling against evil Strange, and he sees like a harp in the corner of the room, and he like flicks his finger, and it's just a single note, and then it's the single note is what like wins the battle for him. So I don't know, it's silly, but just due to its sheer gore, like the violence, the horror elements, and like the fact that you can tell Sam Raimi directed it, it's a very unique direction style that I think pays off in a lot of ways. It makes this movie feel probably one of the most unique movies in the entire MCU. I think I would watch this so many times. Like, you have to watch this movie. Like, even if you're not a Doctor Strange fan, like if you're a horror movie fan, give it a watch, man. Like, it's cool. Like the body count and like the effects and everything. So I say watch it.
Definitely.
Yeah. Grabbing this on Steelbook when it comes out. I am probably going to see it one more time. I want to take my family to go see it because I know my stepdad is a big horror movie fan, and he's a Marvel fan. I don't know if my mom's going to like it a whole lot, so maybe we won't go on Mother's Day, but maybe on Father's Day. So who knows? So that's our big. I think that's the end of our big Marvel Mother's Day triple M extravaganza. But there are a couple other things that we want to just touch on briefly before we wrap this up. So we were talking last week about like concert experiences. I would love if there was Danny Elfman did the music for Doctor Strange, because of course he did. And it was amazing. So if Danny Elfman went on tour and he started playing Doctor Strange music, I would absolutely be on board. But one of the aspects of going to concerts that we didn't really talk about last week was the venues themselves. And I realized the other day, or last weekend, I went to go see a show. It was a band called Action Adventure. They played with Wolf Road, Rare Candy, and Boys of Fall. And I think there was another band that opened up for them, and I feel so bad that I can't remember your name. I'm so sorry. But you all did great. And I went to go see them at the Subterranean, which is like a really popular club in the city of Chicago that I'd never been to before. And as a music guy, I thought this is a really great opportunity to kind of check this off my list. And then I started thinking, what are other like Chicago venues that I haven't been to that I should go to before I leave Chicago at some point, And the only other one that I can think of, because we saw Tenacious D at the Ravinia, I've seen Yellow Card at the House of Blues, I've seen Action Adventure at the Subterranean, what else? Bottom Lounge. That's the only other one that I haven't been to. But I do have a concert coming up with Sunflower Bean and Pale Dog and Jackie Hayes, and that's going to be a really fun show. But yeah, I wanted to ask, man, do you have like a favorite concert venue or one that just like really, really spoke to you?
I don't really remember a whole lot of venues. Like my friend Alex, he's like an encyclopedia. He remembers where we saw every show ever, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't. I recognize some, like Reggie's immediately comes to mind, where I saw a few shows and played a few shows. Reggie's Rock Club. That's like a small place that's kind of fun.
Yeah. Where did we go see The Wonder Years? Where did we go see Origami Angel?
Couldn't tell you.
I don't think it was the Metro.
No, I have no idea.
Yeah, but I remember that was another venue that I wanted to check off my list.
Been to the Tinley Park Amphitheater a bunch of times.
Yeah, or what do they call it now? It was for a while. It was First Midwest Bank Amphitheater.
Yeah.
And I guess before it was something else. I went to go see John Mayer there, and he was like, "Last time I was here, it was called blah blah blah." And my mom, who came with me, she was like, "Oh yeah," and I was like, no idea. Now it's called something else entirely. So now we're gonna be those people that were like, "I remember when it was the First Midwest Amphitheater."
Yeah, man. Like
we've been to a couple of sports stadiums.
Yeah, like United Center,
Wrigley
Soldier Field, whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, those are fun shows. It's just it's obvious when you get there that they weren't made for like concerts, but I think it still works. Like stadium, I think I prefer smaller venues to like bigger venues, because like stadium shows, they're fine, they're cool, but like when you go to a show where like you can like see the band like very, very clearly, I don't know, I just think I have more fun at those venues, because it's like it feels a lot more intimate, and it feels like, you know, it feels like the artist is going to remember that venue, as opposed to like a big stadium. It's like, what stadium was that where the Who play? Yeah. And it's like, if you're seeing someone at a small venue, it's like, oh yeah, they're going to remember that name. Because chances are, when I went to go see Action Adventure, every single act, when they weren't on stage, they were in the audience. And they were just like watching the other bands. They were watching their friends. And I was like, that's awesome. That's so cool. Because then I got to see the guy that I wanted to go see, Rare Candy. I love his music so much. He's this acoustic pop punk artist. He used to play bass in, I think, the band Belmont, who I saw a couple of years ago too. And I didn't know he had a side project, which is now his full-time project now. I got to hug him. I got to like meet him multiple times and just tell him, hey, like your EP Turnip Head got me through like the first half of like 2020. Like I listened to that on repeat all the time. And he was like, dude, we love to hear it. He gave me a hug. Like we talked a little bit. So small venues all the way, small shows all the way. And I'm hoping the one at, you know, when I go see Sunflower Bean at Bottom Lounge, I hope Bottom Lounge ends up being a cool bar.
It's been a hot minute since I've been there, but
yeah,
I think as far as I did not even know we saw the D at the Ravinia.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually where I'm heading next.
Really? Who are you gonna go see?
Steve Miller.
Whoa!
Steve Miller Band.
Steve Miller Band.
Yeah.
They're gonna play the Rambler.
I don't know, maybe. But he's kind of just been forced into my life. Because Haley, the girlfriend, lives and breathes Steve Miller.
Yeah. Like
hardcore. Like she puts me and my Metallica phase to shame. To absolute shame.
Yeah, that's how it should be. Yeah, I think everyone deserves an artist like that.
But yeah, I saw King Crimson at the Ravinia too.
Okay.
It's a really, really nice venue.
Yeah, it's basically just like you walk in and there's a long hallway where all the bathrooms and like the bar is. And then they have usually merch set up in that hallway. Yeah, and then the stage is just one big room. And when we saw Tenacious D, we were pretty close.
I think we're thinking of two different places. Because the Ravinia I'm thinking of is outside. So there might be like a theater and then the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, because I feel like maybe Ravinia, I feel like I've heard that used as like a name to describe like an outdoor like thing.
Yeah, because the one I'm thinking of is like outdoors and there's like a fountains and it's kind of like the amphitheater.
Yeah.
If it had a lot more budget.
Oh. Yeah, which is weird because the amphitheater, I saw Paul McCartney at the amphitheater, which is nuts. Like they draw in really big acts at the Tinley Park amphitheater.
Yeah, I mean Maiden, that was my first show ever. And they were over there.
Yeah.
So, the Rush, my favorite show of all time was at the amphitheater.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Who would have thought? And we lived so close to Tinley Park for so long, and I had no idea that we were that privileged. Yeah, and you can get like lawn seats for like $20. It was awesome. But yeah, and then so I'm gonna have a detailed review on the Sunflower Bean show for sure. He's gonna have a detailed review on Steve Miller, so be sure to catch us for that. But also coming up in a couple of months, or within the next couple of months, are the anniversaries to all of the mobile games we play. So I am 100% responsible for introducing you to all of the mobile games that you play now. Well, at least like the three major ones that like I talked to him about.
That's all I play.
Okay, cool. Because it was a very slow process. But first I introduced you to Dokkan, Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle, which has been around for 7 years, and it's going to be celebrating its 7th anniversary in July. And then after that, it was Pokemon Masters, which is another gacha mobile game. But like, the draw is that instead of just summoning for Pokemon, you summon for like their signature trainers too, which is really cool. And then the most recent one is My Hero Academia Ultra Impact. And I think the last two are a little bit more self-explanatory because we like Pokemon, and I introduced him to My Hero, so it kind of just made sense. But how do you remember like the first time that I talked to you about Dokkan, or like the first time that you remember being interested in Dokkan?
Not really. That was before I even started watching the show, I think.
Yeah, well, because I recently did a Twitch stream where I talked about Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle a little bit too, where I mentioned how in Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle, the mobile game where you're basically just popping bubbles and watching attack animations happen, the soundtrack to that game is nuts. The soundtrack to Dokkan is absolutely crazy. Like, I never thought that I would spend a whole 45-minute drive just listening to mobile game music, but I do, man. I have the whole soundtrack on repeat so often.
It's definitely absurd.
Yeah.
And, they're all like minute or so loops.
Right.
But, yo.
Yeah,
I would put Dokkan up against any goddamn game. At the Game Awards.
Yep.
For best music, where the hell is Dokkan's nomination?
Yeah, no idea. Like, I think they're drawn to like, award shows. They're gonna look at like big AAA games. Oh, who's got strings in their arrangement and who's got these big cinematic moments? Like, oh, I'm gonna highlight Horizon Zero Dawn, which is a fine game. But I'm not listening to the Horizon Zero Dawn soundtrack when I'm driving to Best Buy, dude. I'm putting on Tech, Goku, and Vegeta who fuse into Super Saiyan Gogeta from the Fusion Reborn movie. I'm playing their soundtrack. I'm playing the BoJack soundtrack. I'm playing the new AGL Perfect Cell soundtrack. Dude, so chunky. Yeah. So I remember I showed David one of the songs from the soundtrack that happened to be a little bit longer than a minute and a half. It was like 2 minutes of a loop. And I had my phone faced down. So like I could surprise you and be like, you like this song? Well, guess what? It's from a mobile game. And then, that was the reveal. But I remember you actually seemed to like it because after I was like, so what do you think? You were like, goddamn. And I was like, this is from a Dragon Ball Z mobile game. And you were like, what the goddamn? Yeah. So ever since then, I had been trying to find tracks that David would really like, and there was one in particular after that was from the DBS Broly movie. There was a transforming, like you could transform mid battle from Super Saiyan Gogeta into Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta, and his theme, y'all, his theme, it's so good. It is so good.
Yeah, I'll have to put in the meme that I made later on, but yeah, it was the OST that got me into it.
Yeah,
and now I'm trapped.
Now we're trapped, and we're saving for all of the anniversaries because seemingly, okay, so Dokkan's is in July. It is July 6th, so we are a little bit past 2 months away. Pokemon Masters, I think, is in June or around the same time. And then I just found out that My Hero's anniversary is like in May. So we have like 3 anniversaries in a row that, all of these games use like in-game currency, like gems and stuff. So we've been saving our gems for the most part, getting ready for these big anniversaries, because that's usually when really cool characters come out, and in Dokkan's case, really cool OSTs. And I know, what was it, in like the last episode or 2 episodes ago, when we were trying to talk about Resident Evil, I was like, oh yeah, we might talk about mobile games at some point. And now we're talking about them immediately. We just had a lot to say about Doctor Strange and Moon Knight. And we will probably continue to have a lot to say about Dokkan as like the anniversaries come out and stuff like that. We might even do an episode where we're just listening to like Dokkan OSTs or like picking our favorites or something like that, which could be a cool idea. But I think that's gonna do it for today. unless you got anything else to add about Dokkan or the mobile games.
No, we can talk about them later because there's a lot to say.
There's a lot to say. So if you've stuck around for this long, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed, be sure to follow us for upcoming episodes. Go check out our YouTube channel. We post whole episodes and whole clips. And we're about to post a bonus episode from this episode on our YouTube. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, I have been Nick Scarpinato.
I have been David Kabushikars, and that's been a 1961 Jaguar E-Type.
And that has been our lovely co-host, Vanessa. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to grab a Tootsie Pop on the rollout. On the way out, we have way too many. We have way too many. And the birds outside are starting to eat them and choke on them. So if you could grab one, that would be great. We're trying to protect the environment and our reputations, because as soon as word gets out that we're killing innocent birds, it's over. It's all over for us. So be a friend. Help us out.